Hello everyone, so episode 4 is here. I hope you're as excited as I am, for we are about to completely solve the ghost cube. So without further ado, let's get into it, and first episode right here. So now, after we have oriented the centers correctly, now we want to solve the first two layers, in which we have solved the edges right here. So I like to use a method called side-by-side pairing. Of course, on a regular cube, you can tell which piece goes where due to the distinctive colors. And on a ghost cube, we tell which piece goes where using their distinctive shapes. So the side-by-side pairing method goes like this. So let's see, I want to test where does this piece belong. Now keep in mind that there is a possibility that the edge pieces that you've chosen, like at random to check, does not fit in any 4 of the edge slots. That's because it is like a yellow piece of a 3x3 in which it belongs in the top instead of in the first 2 layers. So yeah, so as an example, I'll use this one right here. So side by side pairing means that I tilt it side to side to check whether it is flush with the centers or not. So I'll test this side. And yes, as you can see, when I tilt this here, these 2 pieces are perfectly flush with one another. In which the edges, if you look them down, they are perfectly flat. So yeah, I make it upright once more, and we just use beginner algorithm to insert it right here. This is an algorithm in which a piece right here is inserted into this. If you're familiar with a 3x3, I believe you know it by now, but I'll demonstrate it anyways. As usual, all algorithms are inside the description. So I'll just insert the uncanny after all pair, and as you can see, when a pair is inserted, this edge piece is flush with both centers, which this is a flat surface, like that, and this are both flat surfaces. And this piece fits here, it fits perfectly. If you really want to double check, here once again, put the smaller sticker to the smaller sticker, and then as you can see, this edge right here, it confirmed fit right there, because it forms a perfect cube like this. It's flat completely, and this side as well, when coupled with this piece right here, is once again completely flush, so we can know this piece belongs here. You see, it's like a cube like this. So the same process is repeated for every single edge piece. Let's say I find this one at random, then the same. I change it to this center. I do side by side pairing. It's obviously not flush, it's okay. And this side, it's obviously not flush, so it's okay. Move it to the next center. Check the left, not flush. Check the right. And now we see, oh, this is flush actually, this is flush right here. It's completely flush. So we use the algorithm to insert this into here. Right here. So now it's in, we know that this and this are flush, it's obvious. And it also fits perfectly with this center right here. And once again, this is not compulsory, but if you really wanted to double check, you could once again match the smaller sticker on the second layer with the smaller sticker on the first layer, and as you can see, the piece you wanted to check, it fits perfectly with the other layer. That's how we know it is, as a matter of fact, correct. And now let me give a simplification of whatever I just said about solving the first 2 layers. Well, aside from orienting the centers, of course. Step 1, choose an edge. Step 2, do side-by-side checking to see if it's flush with either side. If it's flush, then insert it using a beginner algorithm. If it's not flush for either one of the centers, after you do a side-by-side checking, then we can deduce that this piece, as a matter of fact, does not belong in the first 2 layers. Then we move on to the next piece and repeat the cycle. So of course, this is a lot of trial and error and actually requires quite some time to perfect. Now, one thing I want to troubleshoot, maybe there's a very rare chance that you tried all 4 of these and still none of them, not any 4 of them, fits in the first 2 layers. I don't think you'll ever get this, but in case something like this happens, there's a possibility that, let's say, the 2 that are currently incorrect, like let's say this one right here, and this one right here, they belong in opposite positions, in which this belongs here and this belongs here. And that's the reason none of these 4 pieces fits in the first 2 layers. It is because the edge pieces, as we call them, that should belong in the first 2 layers, they are incorrectly inserted in each other's slot. Well, I'll illustrate that in this. So this is the case I'm talking about, this and this, in which if I check all 4 of these pieces using side to side checking, it doesn't fit anywhere. That's because this piece and this piece are either flipped or this happens. This piece and this piece, they are in opposite positions to each other, and that's why none of these pieces fits in there. But once again, there's a very rare chance of this happening. So if you're solving your ghost cube, you have like double check that all 4 edges on the top do not fit into the edges. This is what you do. You choose an edge that is currently wrong, like this one. Like obviously this is correct, we just solve this. So is this, we just solve this as well. Let's say I choose this, then you take it out. Now I like to give a short correction to what I just said. You do in fact take the edge piece out, but instead of just taking it out like that, like I did just now, or whatever, use the beginner algorithm of, let's say, inserting this piece into here. This one, the one I did in fact demonstrate the ghost cube. If not, you know, you'll mess up your first level, so yeah, don't do that mistake, okay? And then using the piece you took out, do side by side checking once again on every single possible combination, and eventually you'll be able to solve it. Once again, this is quite a rare scenario, but in this tutorial I want to be able to address every single possibility. So yeah, so that's that. So now let me just, I'll solve from the layer. I'll skip to that part so you can see how it should look like.
One eternity later.
So now here we have it. The second layer is perfectly solved. We know that by the fact that all the pieces are flush with one another, forming these long flat surfaces. And if you want to double check, it's the same. Smaller sticker in second layer with smaller sticker in first layer. You can see that the pieces fit perfectly as a cube. Now we have like basically half a cube in our hand. It's quite weird looking like this actually. It's like perfect cube here. And here we have this abomination. So yeah, that's all for the first 2 layers. And now time for the last layer. And that marks the end of our episode 4 of the Ghost Cube tutorial series. That leaves us with one last season finale, where we will complete the last layer and solve the entire of the Ghost Cube. So I'll see you next week at the same time. See you then.